had a lot of requests from various places, including here on my YouTube channel, of how I set up my hammocks. I don't have anything sophisticated. This is not Ray Mears setting up a hammock, okay? This is just the way I do it. Part of the reason I do it the way I do is I bring a lot of people out here that are brand new to the bush. They've never set up a hammock. And every knot I teach is very simple. I try and keep them as simple as I can because I've got 4 people I've got to set up, including myself. So I'm pretty much, when we arrive at a place, I'm setting up 5 hammock shelters at a time, and I want to be able to show them the knot one time and have them do the rest of the shelter. The first knot I do is to tie up the long line, which is going to become the ridge line of the shelter. It's just like tying your shoes. Now with the short line here, I'm just going to make a loop, a bow with it. So all it is a bow with one loop. Okay, now I pull this, it's a quick release knot. I pull this, the whole thing comes down. But I can pull on this as tight as I want and it'll be fine. Now on the other end of it, I do something different. I take the rope and I put it just around the tree, one loop around the tree, and I measure my distance. Right here is where I want to put an artillery hitch. Now just lower the rope down. Now to make the artillery hitch, you roll it over, flip it underneath, and now I'm going to reach through here. It looks kind of like a pretzel. I'll reach through here, grab this side, and pull that down. Now what I have here is a loop which will not tighten down. This will come out under tension when I need it to, when I take the hammock down. But I can pass the rope back through this and pull tension, a lot of tension, on the rope. So I bring it up, take my other end through. Now that becomes a pulley, and I can take a lot of tension on this rope. And when I come over to the top, I just pull a loop through into a half hitch, and it's nice and tight. Now that's not going to go anywhere. And I have a nice ridge line which is tight as a drum. And when it's time to take it apart, all I got to do is pull it, and the whole thing comes down again. So it's very simple. The most complicated knot I have to teach in the bush to my guys, which I bring out here for the first time, is the artillery hitch. It takes them a few times to get that, but it's a knot that's, once you practice it a few times, you're never going to forget it. It's a very simple knot to make, and it's very useful because it allows you to adjust then your tension and the height of your ridge line, and you can get it as tight as you want. It's not going to go anywhere. Now what I would like to normally do with this is just throw it up over the top, get it out of the way so you don't step on it. The tarps we use down here are as simple as they can be. This is just a 4x3 meter black plastic tarp. You can buy these in any hardware store in Brazil, and they're extremely cheap. I'll get about 3 or 4 trips out of these, and then they start getting a little iffy, and I'll just replace them. But I wanted a piece of gear which was accessible to the guys that are taking my course, and you can't beat black plastic in the bush. In my corners, I use a piece of rope that's about 2, maybe a little bit long, more, 2.5 meters long. What I'll do is I'll take any kind of object, a rock, broken off piece of stick, like this. You put it in well inside, and you gather the tarp around it, and you just make the same kind of knot. Here you can use a square knot. You can use a granny knot if you get your square knot wrong. It's not that big of a deal. Now what I'll do here is the same kind of knot which I used at the beginning of the ridge line, where you take your short end, make a loop with your short end, and bring it around just like tying your shoes. Okay, that snugs nice and tight, and then it also is a quick release knot. But it's something which everybody recognizes. When I bring guys out here, most of them, the only thing they've ever tied in their lives is their shoes. So I use that knot, and it works. The hammocks we use here for the course are very simple. Just a basic parachute nylon hammock, nylon ropes, and I use rope to tie up to the trees. I know using webbing is a lot better because it doesn't damage the trees. Depends on your trees. Rope could damage trees if they have fragile bark, or if you're in a place where a lot of people are using hammocks, then use webbing. Here in the bush, you're only using them for one night or 2 nights. It's not that big of a deal, and we use rope because it's affordable. The way I tie up a hammock using nylon rope is a little bit different than what other people do. It works for me. I've never had a hammock come down. What I do is I take the rope, just wrap it around evenly. I wrap it around evenly like this. Now when I put tension on this, it's going to snug down on this side. So it's got a loop that goes all the way around the tree. If that's snugging it down, all I do is I pass both of them through the hammock. I go underneath. I tie a hitch in it underneath. Up on the front, I tie another hitch. And here's the complicated part, you just tie it in a bow. Now this allows me to adjust the height of the hammock later. I can just pull on it, give myself a little bit of space there, and I can move this up or down the tree. But once my weight is in it, this knot does not come out. This knot will not let it slide, and all the weight is snugging it down against the tree. And I've never had a hammock come down. I've never had one change position using this system. When you sleep in a hammock, it's a balancing act. If your head is lower than your feet, all your blood's going to rush to your head. If your head is much higher than your feet, at night you will slide down and you're going to wake up with your feet in the ropes. One of the things I like to do when I'm in a hammock and I'm going to sleep underneath one of these shelters, you have all kinds of space. You got all kinds of room underneath a 3 by 4 meter tarp. You got 1.5 meters of fall on either side. I like to use a tripod in the middle of the hammock shelter and just have my pack up off the ground. It keeps the bugs out of it. The other thing I like to do is with my neck knife, with the light on the bottom of my neck knife, I take that and just loop it over top of my ridge line, and there I've got my night light. Hung up this way, I have a nice light which I can use to light up my pack, find what I'm doing at night, or light up the hammock, and it's just a great way to have a light inside your shelter. So there it is, my simple way of setting up a hammock. Simple knots, simple to remember. One of the things you don't want to have is water filling up your hammock shelter. Plastic tarps will not hold 2 liters of water in a puddle in there, so you got to be really careful that you don't have anything loose in there where the water could really gain more than 1 liter or 2 of water. That's kind of nice actually in the morning when you wake up to have 1 liter or so of water, which you can use for washing or making breakfast or whatever. But too much and your shelter will rip, so you got to be careful. That's one of the only things you got to be careful with using black plastic.